Before Emperor Constantine, the Roman Empire was predominantly pagan, with a vast pantheon of gods and religious practices deeply embedded in Roman culture and daily life. Although Christianity had spread across the empire, it was still considered a minor and often subversive sect. Christians were subject to periodic persecutions, most notably under emperors like Nero, Decius, and Diocletian. These persecutions were driven by the belief that the Christians' refusal to worship the Roman gods and the emperor endangered the stability of the empire. After the abdication of Emperor Diocletian, the empire was divided among multiple rulers, leading to a power struggle. Constantine's rise to power occurred during a period of significant turmoil in the Roman Empire, characterized by civil wars and political instability. As the son of the Western Emperor Constantius Chlorus, Constantine eventually emerged as a key figure in this tumultuous struggle, navigating the challenges of the time to solidify his position and influence within the empire. The turning point for Constantine is traditionally linked to the events surrounding the Battle of the Milvian Bridge in 312 AD. This battle was part of a larger civil war, as Constantine sought to consolidate his power by defeating his rival Maxentius, who controlled Rome. The account of Constantine's vision before the battle is one of the most famous stories in Christian history. According to Eusebius of Caesarea, who wrote Life of Constantine, Constantine saw a cross of light in the sky with the inscription, "In this sign you will conquer." That night he had a dream in which Christ instructed him to use the sign of the Chi, the first two letters of Christ's name in Greek, as a symbol on his soldiers' shields. This vision and subsequent victory were interpreted by Constantine as a sign of divine favor. His decision to embrace Christianity, at least initially, was likely influenced by this powerful experience. However, it is essential to recognize that Constantine's conversion was a complex process, not necessarily an immediate and total adoption of Christian beliefs. Some historians argue that his conversion was also a politically shrewd move, as it helped him secure the support of the growing Christian population within the empire. Personally, I don't agree with this idea because during Constantine's rise to power, Christians constituted only about 5 to 10% of the population, which translates to approximately 3 to 7.5 million people. And by the end of his life, the Christian population had grown to around 10 to 20%, or roughly 5 to 15 million people. In 313 AD, shortly after his victory, Constantine, in conjunction with Licinius, issued the Edict of Milan. This edict was a milestone in the history of Christianity, as it granted religious freedom to all, allowing Christians to worship without fear of persecution. The Edict of Milan did not make Christianity the state religion, but rather placed it on an equal footing with other religions in the empire. It also returned confiscated property to Christians, including places of worship, which had been seized during previous persecutions. Constantine's most notable intervention in church affairs was the convening of the First Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. This council was the first ecumenical council of the Christian Church and was called to address the Arian controversy, a significant theological dispute that threatened to divide the Church. Constantine's involvement in the Council of Nicaea was significant as it marked a turning point in the relationship between the state and the Church. By calling the bishops together and organizing the council, Constantine set a precedent for imperial influence in ecclesiastical matters, even though the decision-making was reserved for the bishops. This practice of imperial involvement would persist for centuries, especially in the Eastern Roman Empire. As a patron of Christianity, Constantine initiated numerous building projects that transformed the landscape of the Roman Empire. One of Constantine's most famous projects was the construction of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. This church was built on the site believed to be the location of Christ's crucifixion and resurrection. The church became a major pilgrimage site and a symbol of Christian triumph. In Rome, Constantine ordered the construction of the original St. Peter's Basilica, which was built over the presumed tomb of St. Peter. This basilica became one of the most important centers of Christian worship in the Western world and the seat of the papacy. Also in Bethlehem, Constantine's mother Helena, who was also a devout Christian, initiated the construction of the Church of the Nativity at the site believed to be the birthplace of Jesus. Interestingly, while the Arch of Constantine celebrates Constantine's victory over Maxentius at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, it does not contain any explicitly Christian imagery, despite Constantine's conversion by the time of its construction. Instead, it emphasizes traditional Roman virtues such as courage and duty, alongside references to divine favor. Although Constantine did not outlaw paganism, his support for Christianity led to the gradual decline of pagan practices. Temples were repurposed as churches, and many pagan festivals were reinterpreted in a Christian context. Over time, as more emperors embraced Christianity, paganism became increasingly marginalized. Christian symbols such as the cross began to appear in public spaces, replacing traditional Roman symbols. Art and literature also began to reflect Christian themes, marking a cultural shift from classical to Christian motifs. Despite his lifelong support for Christianity, Constantine was not baptized until shortly before his death in 337 AD. This was a common practice at the time, as many early Christians believed that baptism should be delayed until the end of life to ensure that all sins were washed away. After his baptism, Constantine was buried in the Church of the Holy Apostles in Constantinople, the new capital of the Roman Empire. These aspects of Constantine's life and reign illustrate the depth and complexity of his influence on history. His actions not only shaped the Christian faith but also had far-reaching effects on the Roman Empire and beyond, making him one of the most pivotal figures in world history.